Hi guys, I'm here to show you step 4, which is going to be working on the foreground and adding some details. I think you're going to like this step because I found some really easy and really kind of fun ways to use Sketchpad to make really cool looking pieces. So stick around, here we go. So here's where we left off. I built up my mountains, I have my sky, it's all looking pretty good. So we are going to start playing around with the foreground, and then we're going to clean up the edges and make it look really nice. Now, fun stuff. I found that Sketchpad has these really cool stamps that you can search for and use, but I want to talk to you guys about that a little bit. The focus of this project is to learn how to use the different layers of space, moving from background to middle ground to foreground. It's also teaching you how to layer shapes together to create a successful looking image. This is not a masterclass in creating your own images. That being said, if you want to go ahead and try to create your own trees, your own rocks, your own other things in your landscape, that is totally fine. Some of you guys might pick some really complicated stuff. And if that's you, you may have to do a little bit of playing and a little bit of discovery to try and create things on your own. That being said, if you're doing something really simple like I'm doing right now, I'm going to blow your mind with some stamps. So here we go. I am going to click on clip art, and you can see I've already started to search. I'm going to choose a graphic, and I'm going to type in trees. You can see, actually just tree maybe. Look at tree. Look at all the different trees that pop up. Now I know my landscape initially has pine trees, so I'm going to start by choosing, looking at the different pine trees. There's this one here. There's also that one. I don't see any other pine trees. There are some nice like deciduous trees, but I don't really want those. And I don't really want any of these weird colored graphic ones. I'm just going to be looking for the silhouettes. There's also, I don't know what these are for, but there's different branches and things too, which I think I might actually come back to and use a little bit later. But I did very much like this tree right here. So I'm going to click on it. And when you first open it up, it is just black. One thing I'm going to do is resize it so it's the size that I want it to be, and I am going to position it in a new spot because I do want it to kind of crop off the side a little bit. Then I'm going to play with the color. Okay. I have my vector fill button right here. And I'm going to go fill, and I'm going to choose a greenish color. Now I've already kind of in the greens. I've got some greens here. I think maybe I might go a little bit more blue. Somewhere in there. And because this tree is really close to me, I want it to be on the dark side. So I'm going to pick a very dark green. And there you go, it's filled. Now, one thing, I know I'm going to use a lot of these trees, and it's going to be really, really hard to keep track of it all. So I'm actually going to come over to my layers panel and just double click on it. Everything will show up. This clip art here, if I click on it, you're going to see that's my tree. Now double click and label it close tree, or the color of the tree, dark green tree. While we're at it, why don't we label some of our other pieces too? Like this rectangle is actually the sky. And this one is background mountain. If you go through and label everything, it's really easy to see what is what, and you can have a much easier time reorganizing and relayering. So don't be afraid to go ahead and do that. I'll come back and do that a little bit more later. What I'm going to do right now is continue adding trees to my scene here. So I'm going to keep choosing that tree silhouette and stamping them all the way around, and changing the colors. Remember, trees that are farther away, we want to keep a little bit lighter in color, and trees that are closer to you, we want bigger and darker. Okay, so live by those rules and you will be really successful. I've got a few more trees here. I am going to start playing with the colors and playing with the fill. So I know my trees that are closest to me, I want to be dark. So I think I want that one really close. And then the other trees are all going to be a lighter color. So I'm going to come in, move this upwards a little bit. There we go. Let's change the last view. Put it here. Now I think I can go a little bit than that. We'll go there and there. I'm going to go in and label my trees now because these are not correct. This is not correct. So here's what I have so far. I came over here to the layers panel and I labeled everything. Then I reorganized it. So if you want to start moving your trees around so that they're layered correctly, you can actually take a layer, highlight it, and drag it to where you want it to go. And then it'll move to that spot on your image. And you can see all of these trees look exactly the same. I don't totally love that, so I am going to play around with size a little bit more. For example, you can click on an image or a shape and just shrink it to be a different size. You can thin it out a little as well so that they're not all exactly the same. That's one thing I just don't love. Oops. I don't love that about this program, how all the stamps look exactly the same. It's a little bit tricky to transform them so that they aren't all perfect shapes. So don't be afraid to play with color and movement, move them around, change the sizes, all of that stuff. By the way, if you want to change the color of something, you can come over to the vector fill and click on this little eyedropper and select a color that you already have and fill. So I'll try that one more time. Eyedropper. Just make sure you're selecting the right color here. I want that one. We're going to fill that tree. So that way they kind of match up a little bit better. So I'm still adding trees and I want to change some colors. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to change some of these colors of these little tiny guys in the back. And then you can definitely hit Control C and Control V, and that will kind of replicate a few of the trees. I'm kind of adding a few different ones here. In the back, I don't like that one. Essentially, all I'm doing is trying to build layers and layers and layers of trees here so that eventually I have a really lush looking wooded area. Now, one thing I am going to do is I am going to play a little bit with some of the opacity of these trees. So if I click the select button and I click on a tree, I can bring the opacity down. So then that way, some of the blues from the background really start to infiltrate and mix in with those tree colors. I do want to make sure that these are layered appropriately as well. Let's keep going here. I'm going to click on that guy in the back. I do want the layers to show appropriately. So I just want to make sure I'm lowering the opacity so some of those blues can really show through. Especially on those trees that are meant to be farther away, I do like to lower the opacity on those trees just because we want them to look a little bit hazy, a little fuzzy. We want there to be a few layers. And then these darker trees I am going to leave alone. Now, you could look at this and be like, okay, it's pretty much done. I think I'm going to go back in and add a few of those branches that I saw to add a little bit, just a little bit more detail and a little bit more texture. Let's see, I think I like that one, and I'm going to rotate it so it looks more like that. And just kind of place them along the bottom here. Control C, Control V. Layer them on top of each other. Just like the little twigginess of that. Maybe I'll stretch a few of them up higher. Just kind of fill in some space. Make them look. Oops. Make sure you grab the correct thing. And there we go. And the cool thing about these is you can go in and change the opacity of these little twiggy guys too. So I'm going to just lower some of them, make some of them really light. So looking up some of the other clip art pieces, I tried looking for clouds and I'm not loving any of these options here. They all look very cartoony. They don't really match the aesthetic that I've built up. So just be very careful when you're using these stamps because sometimes they might work really well like the trees and the branches did, but the clouds, nah, miss me with that. I don't really need that on my image here. So let's talk about how to clean this thing up. Right now, all of my edges are really, really messy. Everything's overflowing. It doesn't look very neat and clean. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a really simple and easy way. I'm going to come over to Tools. I'm going to select Rectangle. And again, if you don't have Rectangle selected, maybe yours says something else, just click on this rectangle banner right here and it'll give you a rectangle option. Now, before we start using rectangles, I am going to click on this area called the blend mode, and I'm going to actually choose erase. Now what this is going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle to the size that I want it, and that just makes all of the black and gray squares come back. It gives you a nice even look at that. I love it. Go in and grab the little pieces that I missed. There you go. There's a layered, nice, beautiful layered piece. And you can certainly have fun playing around with this a little bit more. Mine's a little bit foreground heavy right now. So if I were to go back and change a few things, it might be the gradient in the background. Maybe I'd change the whole background color to begin with. But this is how you use layers of space and how you can get a decent start with digital painting. If you turn in something that looks like this, that is a pretty good job for the tool that we have. If you're using Procreate or something else, I might expect you to bump it up a little bit higher, but it all depends on you. You're driving the bus here, so if you're very, very new to digital art, this might be a really challenging project for you, and that's okay. If you've had a little bit more experience with digital art, I really want you to push yourself and challenge yourself to try something new and to make things a little bit more complicated. Thanks for watching, you guys, and good luck with your digital landscapes.